Lyra Ashworth had grown up hearing one name spoken with hatred, Kaelstrom. In the Vantar Pack, that name was never said without a curse attached to it. She had been told, since she was a small child, that the Kaelstrom family had taken everything from her people: land, peace, her parents. She never questioned it. She had no reason to. The story had been repeated so many times that it had become part of her, like her own heartbeat. When her parents died in a border skirmish years ago, the loss hollowed her out. She stopped laughing the way she used to. She stopped dreaming of a normal life. Instead, she trained. She learned to fight, to track, to survive in silence. And most of all, she learned about poisons, the kind that could slow a human heart, and the rarer kind that could stop even a shifted wolf. So when the aging Vantar Alpha called for a volunteer to end the life of the new Kaelstrom king, Lyra stepped forward without hesitation. She told herself it was justice. She told herself it was for her parents. She told herself many things that night, and she believed every one of them. The plan was simple. She would enter Kaelstrom territory disguised as a wandering healer, a refugee fleeing violence from the Eastern Packs. Healers were rarely questioned. They were welcomed, fed, and given shelter, because every pack needed hands that could mend wounds. Lyra's skill with herbs and medicine was real, which made her disguise even easier. She was not lying about being a healer. She was only lying about why she had come. She crossed the border on a cold morning, her bag light, her heart heavier than she let herself admit. She expected suspicion. She expected guards to interrogate her, to search her belongings, to treat her the way her own pack treated outsiders. Instead, she was met with quiet courtesy. She was given a small room near the healing wing, food, and a promise of safety. It unsettled her more than hostility would have. The Kaelstrom king, Draven, was nothing like the monster she had been taught to imagine. He was young, composed, and startlingly calm for a man who led an entire pack through uncertain times. When he greeted the new arrivals seeking shelter, he did not look at Lyra with doubt. He looked at her the way he looked at everyone else, with simple, steady attention, as if she mattered exactly as much as anyone in the room. That night, Lyra told herself this made her task easier. A trusting king was a vulnerable king. She reminded herself why she had come. She unpacked her small collection of herbs, hiding the one vial that did not belong among the rest, the one meant only for him. But something strange happened that same night, something Lyra could not have prepared for. Draven's wolf would not settle. Wolves are not like human minds. They do not reason the way people do. They sense things directly, through scent and instinct, truths that cannot be argued away by logic. From the moment Lyra had crossed into Kaelstrom land, Draven's wolf had grown restless, pacing at the edges of his thoughts, refusing to calm. It was not fear, it was not warning, it was something else entirely. A pull, deep and unfamiliar, toward the quiet healer who had just arrived. Draven tried to ignore it. He told himself it was simply unease over having new strangers within his walls during uncertain times. But the feeling did not fade. If anything, it grew stronger each time he passed near the healing wing, each time he caught the faintest trace of her scent carried on the evening air. Over the following days, he found himself drawn to her in small, quiet ways. He visited the healing wing more often than usual, telling himself he was checking on the wounded warriors recovering there. He lingered near her when she worked, asking about her remedies, her travels, her past, though she gave him only careful, half-true answers. She was polite, she was calm. But she never let her guard down, and something about that only made him more curious. Lyra, for her part, found herself growing uneasy in ways she had not expected. She had prepared herself to feel nothing for this king, to see him only as a target, a name attached to old grief. But the man she was meeting did not match the picture painted for her since childhood. He listened when the injured spoke to him, remembering small details about their families. He worked alongside his warriors instead of simply commanding them. He treated even the newest, most uncertain refugee with quiet respect. She told herself it did not matter. Kindness could be a mask. She had been trained to see through disguises, and she reminded herself daily that his calm nature changed nothing about what he represented to her pack, or what she had been sent to do. But nights grew harder. She would lie awake, staring at the small vial hidden beneath her belongings, and find herself hesitating in ways she never had during training. She blamed exhaustion. She blamed the unfamiliar surroundings. She did not let herself consider the real reason, not yet. Weeks passed, and the tension between them deepened, though neither said its true name aloud. Draven found excuses to walk with her through the training grounds, to ask her opinion on herbal remedies for wounded warriors, to simply be near her without needing a reason at all. His wolf, far from calming, grew only more certain the longer she stayed. It recognized something in her that his human mind was only beginning to understand, the presence of a fated mate, a bond that did not form through choice, but was simply discovered, the way the sun is discovered each morning, by those who wake to see it. Lyra noticed the way his gaze softened whenever their conversations turned personal, the way his voice slowed and steadied when he spoke to her, unlike his measured tone with everyone else. Some nights, she caught herself wondering how a man capable of such warmth could be the villain her pack described. Other nights, she scolded herself harshly for entertaining such doubts, gripping the small vial in her palm until her knuckles paled, reminding herself of her parents' faces, of the home she no longer had. One evening, everything came to a point neither of them could avoid any longer. There was a small gathering in the Great Hall, a modest celebration marking a successful harvest, despite the difficult year. Lyra had been invited, along with the other healers, though she had planned only to observe quietly from the edges of the room. It was there, amid warm laughter and firelight, that Draven's wine goblet was left unattended on a side table, while he spoke with his advisors nearby. Lyra's chest tightened. This was the opportunity she had waited for since crossing the border. Her hand trembled as she reached into the folds of her sleeve, fingers closing around the small vial she had carried through every quiet night since her arrival. She stepped toward the table, heart pounding so loudly she feared everyone in the room could hear it. Just as her fingers loosened the vial's cap, a voice spoke gently behind her. "You've been standing very still," Draven said. "Is something wrong?" Lyra froze. She turned slowly, the vial still hidden in her palm, her face carefully arranged into calm. "Just tired," she said. "Long day." He studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable, though something behind his eyes seemed to see straight through her careful composure. "Your hands are shaking," he said quietly, nodding toward where her arm remained pressed close to her side. Panic rose in her chest, sharp and sudden. She could lie again. She could smile, excuse herself, wait for another chance. But something in his steady gaze made lying feel suddenly impossible, as though he already understood more than she wanted him to. "Walk with me," Draven said, his voice low, meant only for her. It was not a command, it was a request, gentle but certain. They stepped away from the noise of the hall into the quiet corridor beyond, moonlight spilling through tall windows along the stone walls. Lyra's mind raced, searching for an excuse, a way out, but none came. When Draven finally stopped and turned to face her, his expression was not angry, it was searching, almost sad. "Why did you really come here, Lyra?" he asked softly. The question broke something loose inside her. Perhaps it was exhaustion from carrying the weight of her mission alone for so long. Perhaps it was the quiet kindness in his voice, so unlike the anger she had expected to find in him. Whatever the reason, the truth spilled out before she could stop it. She told him everything, her pack, her parents. The mission she had accepted to end his life, believing it would bring justice, believing it would finally quiet the grief she had carried since childhood. She told him about the vial, still clutched tightly in her hand, and placed it gently into his palm, as though surrendering the last piece of the person she had been ordered to become. She braced herself for his anger, for guards to be called, for the punishment she felt she deserved for deceiving a man who had shown her nothing but patience. Instead, Draven knelt slowly before her, his eyes never leaving hers. "My wolf knew you the moment you crossed our border," he said quietly. "I did not understand it myself, not fully, until now. Some bonds are older than the wars we inherit, older than the grief we are taught to carry." He paused, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his words. "I am not asking for your loyalty, Lyra. I am only asking what you want, now that you finally have the choice." Lyra stood in stunned silence, the weight of his words settling over her like something both terrifying and freeing. For the first time since her parents' deaths, someone was not asking her to fight, to avenge, to become someone shaped entirely by loss. He was simply asking what she wanted. She did not have an answer that night. She needed time to sit with the truth, to untangle years of inherited hatred from the reality she had witnessed with her own eyes. She spent the following days in quiet reflection, walking the training grounds alone, watching Draven lead his people with patience rather than force, watching him treat even his enemies' messengers with fairness rather than cruelty. She thought about the Vantar Alpha who had sent her, a man who spoke often of honor, but had never once sought peace, only vengeance dressed in noble words. She thought about her parents, and wondered, for the first time, whether they would have wanted her life defined entirely by grief, or whether they would have wanted her to find peace of her own, wherever it might be found. Slowly, the answer became clear to her, not through pressure or persuasion, but through her own quiet certainty. She chose to stay. Not as a spy, not as an assassin waiting for a better opportunity, but as herself, finally free from the mission that had defined her for so long. She told Draven her decision, beneath the same moonlit corridor, where the truth had first been spoken between them, and this time, when he reached for her hand, she did not pull away. Word of her betrayal, or rather, her true intentions, eventually reached the Vantar pack. The old Alpha, furious at what he saw as her failure, sent warriors to finish what she had abandoned. When they arrived at the Kaelstrom border, under cover of night, they expected to find a kingdom weakened by grief and distraction. Instead, they found Lyra standing beside Draven, no longer torn between two worlds, but certain of the one she had chosen. She fought not out of hatred, but out of loyalty freely given, defending the home and the man she had once been sent to destroy. Her knowledge of the Vantar Pack's tactics, gained through years of training, became the very thing that helped protect the kingdom she now called her own. The battle was short, and when it ended, something shifted in the fragile balance between the two packs. The old Alpha, having lost both his weapon and his advantage, was eventually forced to accept a truce, one built not on victory, but on the undeniable bond between his former assassin and the king she had failed to kill. In time, the war that had shaped Lyra's entire life began to fade into something new. Peace did not come easily, and old wounds did not heal overnight, but it came, slowly, the way seasons change without announcement. Lyra remained by Draven's side, not as the person she had been raised to be, but as the person she had chosen to become. Sometimes, in quiet moments, she still thought of her parents, of the grief that had once defined her. But she no longer carried it as a weapon. She carried it instead as a memory, gentle and steady, alongside the new life she had built for herself. She had been sent to end a king's life. Instead, she found the one place where her own life truly began.